Hi, everyone. So it's so nice to see everyone here. And I can see both familiar and new faces as well. So thank you so much for joining us. That it has been a good couple of years since our last event, and that was right before the pandemic hit. And so today we are so blessed to be able to, have this event. And right before the year ends, it's so good that we are able to share our knowledge sessions with you. And it's not only that, after this, of course, we will have our good food, good wine, and of course, networking. And we really hope that we will all have meaningful connections, new connections tonight. So before we start our online streaming, which starts now, we would like to inform everyone that the doors, imaginary doors, will be closed so that we can control the traffic. So I hope everyone is seated comfortably, and we shall start. So, hello everyone. Again, thank you for coming to our third Strategic Insights series event titled AI Strategies for C-Suites, Crucial Steps for Survival. I hope everyone is enjoying the lovely space here at the Yuchengco Museum, right here in the heart of Makati and Metro Manila. And to our online audience, thank you for tuning in from wherever you are right now in the world. I'm Karen Kalalek, your moderator for today's seminar and the COO of Paperspace Asia. We are your strategic partners driving business performance through workplace strategy and design, resulting in increased earnings, talent attraction, and brand experience. Before we start, we would like to thank again our lovely sponsors for our event. Our partners have prepared some surprise lucky draws for us to give away later. So tune in for that too. Again, for Citimex, B Coffee, Gift Genie, One Earth Organics, Tough Banana and Blue Thumb, Kaizen Leadership by Mike Grogan. So for our agenda today and for the next hour, we will be going through the purpose of our event, 3 ways AI influences workplace, your next steps in implementing AI yourselves, and a 15-minute Q&A session. Please scan the QR code and send us questions during the session, and we will try to answer all of them at the end. Let's start by introducing our very special guests today. We are joined by Sir Luis Gonzalez, the Chief Data Officer of Aboitiz Power. I must tell you, he is such a captivating individual, primarily because he can answer all of my questions, AI questions, that is, very intelligently. So the key word here is he can get addictive. So once you talk to this guy, it's like you just like, he's a magnet. So we also have Sir Gary Ocampo, the Chief Growth Advisor of Embiggen Group and ex-CEO of Kantar here in Manila. So with Sir Gary, I have been working with Kantar since I was based in Singapore. And they have been my first Philippine client after coming back in 2014 and have worked with them since. So we have done over 4 offices over here in Manila. And finally, we have Miss Narita Cha. Welcome, our CEO at Paperspace Asia. She is committed in ensuring that both our organization and the team succeed in an increasingly dynamic landscape, making AI one of our key priorities. Seated comfortably? Welcome. So all of us are here today not only because we realize the importance of AI in our workflows, but also because we're seeking out ways to effectively use them. Have a look at this innovation adoption curve, specifically where it says early adopters. This is where we should aim to be. Because understanding AI is no longer enough, we need to start figuring out how to use it better than our competitors. Why? It is because AI is a tsunami that is taking over the world. To establish our competitive advantage, we need to adapt quickly or risk losing out. At Paperspace Asia, we see artificial intelligence influencing three key aspects of the workplace: our competitiveness, new working behaviors, and the need for creativity. These factors all contribute to the employee experience, but more than that, they will help set the standard of what measures and policies we will need to implement and ensure maximum productivity. Thank you again to our guest speakers who will be sharing their experiences with AI within their own organizations. So for the first part, AI has the potential to inspire us to work more efficiently and intelligently, which in turn makes us more competitive. And let me tell you, industries around Southeast Asia are already on it. According to Ernst& Young, 9 in 10 CEOs are already embracing AI, and more than half of them are already piloting potential solutions. It's clear that there is no time to wait around to see what the best solution is. We need to act now to survive in the era of AI driven business processes. So, first, let's hear from everyone, both here in the audience and online. What do you think? So, our first question is: what drives us towards AI adoption? Is it revenue increase or employee empowerment? Or are there other reasons? We'd like to hear from you. So you can scan the QR code on screen to vote. And while our audiences votes, would anyone like to share their thoughts first? Sir Gary?
Thank you very much, Karen, and good afternoon to everyone. Over the 15 years that I managed Kantar, these two topics, revenue growth, employee empowerment, were debated, discussed ad nauseum. Right? So year after year, we would talk about different ways, techniques, tools, systems in order to improve on these two things, as well as other areas of the business. While there were occasional spurts of progress, for the most part, at least in the market research industry, progress has been incremental. But now, with AI available to businesses, I think the industry, the market research industry, fearfully looks at AI as probably the tool that will help us achieve exponential growth. So revenue growth, employee empowerment, and even maybe cost reduction could be what's driving the industry towards adopting AI.
I'll go more broader picture. Since I graduated from computer science, I been a student of the relationship of software and humans, and the inflection point that the revolution that we started back in 2014 created. It created an unprecedented time in humanity where the first time a key technology for society adapts to humans. We've all had to adapt to technology. The reason why there's the third world and the first world countries is because the first world countries were the ones that developed the technology and adapted to them quicker. Now, there's a democratization of the biggest and most important driver of economic force in an unprecedented manner. So it's almost like resetting the game to zero. And I say jokingly, and this is from an MIT teacher of mine, the era of the dyslexic is coming. Finally, people with lateral thinking will be empowered. So I see it beyond empowering people. I see it as almost like a new inflection of human development, like a homo digitalis, if you may, where the ability to apply technology makes us, and our creativity would make us achieve things that we never achieved before. So the empowerment of your employees, the empowerment of your ideas, the value of curiosity is finally growing. And this is why I wanted to study computer science. And I'm a little tired that it took 25 years to get here, but the next 100 years fascinating and exciting for me.
Well, for me, as Paperspace Asia, I have one word, which is FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. And as Louis said, when everything's gone down to 0 point, then it is the first to the line that wants to go ahead that's going to be ahead of the curve. And that's how I see it. We could sit around as leaders and read all the white papers and theorize it to death. But it is the leader who picks it up, tries it, and say, oh my gosh, I've saved 50% of my time because now I can sleep more. I can think about a better answer. I can tweak the 30% and focus on what's more important. And if I get it, I'm going to go to my staff and say, I don't think you asked ChatGPT for the answers. Why did you try that and come back to me? That is the culture in which we then understand the power of how it will propel a business forward. So to me, there's no choice. As a business leader, it's not a choice. It's something we have to do. The sooner, the better.
Yeah. So we have already polled. So our results, right? So it comes out, Luis, something closer to what you have mentioned. Employee empowerment goes up, tops it off at 56%, while revenue increase is second. It's at 44%. So our audience knows. All right. So for the next part, and thank you everyone for those answers. As we adopt AI, however, we must also address the elephant in the room. AI replaces humans in the workforce. So according to EY, 68% of CEOs believe that this will be counterbalanced by new roles and career opportunities that the technology creates. This is an encouraging sign that AI will not necessarily lead to job losses, but rather it will create new opportunities for people to work alongside machines. So our question is, what departments in the organization should be prioritized when it comes to implementing AI? Luis, can we get your thoughts on this?
I'm one of those who believes that not only will it not replace jobs, it will create so many jobs we're not prepared to have yet. I'll give you a quick example, and then I'll answer the question as to which departments you go after. In 20 years from now, there'll be a kid in 15 years old in high school that connects to a work network. And he has developed a curiosity on transformers. I come from power, so deal with it, or join me in the analogy. And he's developed an equipment interest, and he's taken a quick course of 2 weeks explaining what transformer health analysis looks like. After he joined that network, he gets notices saying, there's a quick job of walking these 5 transformers in your vicinity. Go with your app and take pictures and do some annotations while you're there. Kid stops Netflix, goes, takes some pictures, does annotations, writes his notes, sends it, made 500 pesos. He has a micro job. A micro job that costs a utility millions a year and never gets to all transformers. It generates value that doesn't exist today. And that's one of the main reasons why your kilowatt hour price is lower. That's the world I'm trying to create. And that world is not created by the people that lead power today. It's created by those leaders that understand that the change is something that we don't know what it is like yet. So in your organizations, those micro jobs will exist, and those may not be your employees. They may even be your customers contributing to your employees' functions. So to answer your question, I suggest that you first engage the business for their curiosity, for their ideas of how they would use this technology. I think it's a mistake to let the CIO, the CDO drive it. Because if the Aboitiz group gave me money to do it, I would do research. I wouldn't do things that they need, because the things that they need, the value of what I'm building is curated based by business. So there shouldn't be an AI strategy. There should be a business strategy and the kind of business we're going to run when it's powered by AI. Because none of your companies have a IT strategy or a internet strategy anymore. Everything you do is empowered by internet. So in a similar manner, You should let the democratization aspect of it, so bottom up, and you should make sure that the business is the one that engages with the technology first and comes up with the curiosity and ideas for it.
Thanks, Louise. Very interesting. So, Gary, it seems like you want to ask more.
Well, the researcher in me is being triggered, So I'd like to ask Luis a question, because wearing my management hat, I would think that AI adoption in an organization should be approached from a change management perspective. But Luis is saying it may not be the proper way to do it. So I'm really curious, and I'd like to hear some more about it.
Change management has an implication that I'm imposing something for you to go into. Whereas empowering means I'm going to help you with your idea.
Inherently, you're doing the best form of change management, which is we never even talk about the change. You want to drive it? Okay, I'll help you drive it. It also builds accountability. So in my view, what I've seen work the most is when the origin of the ideas is the person that's accountable for the actual outcome. You never really have to do change management because they're so embedded, they're so committed that even when things are going badly, they have a bit of a sunk cost fallacy. They really want to see it. So it's not that I don't believe in change management, but I believe that the ideas that we need to change towards need to come from the very people that are going to make them happen.
So I'm not an AI specialist in any way or form, but we do know that it's critical for us to adopt it across our workflows. At Paperspace, we run strategy, we do design, there's a whole lot of technical delivery, it's just complex. And I think the question is how, when somebody doesn't have AI tools and knowledge, how do we drive it? I think it goes back to Luis's point, which is it needs to serve the function of the business. And if we break that down further, it means that when we're servicing a customer, are we able to free up the administrative time of putting things together by 50%, so that 50% of the time that we have now, we're going to spend time on the strategic response that we need to now use a human capacity to think. Second, for us, is in design, we like words, like fancy words. We want to feel innovative and, it makes an amazing environment. The problem we have is somebody in Thailand who says amazing and futuristic and innovative looks very different from somebody like Jerome who sits in the Philippines, and looks very different to somebody sitting in Singapore for a client who sits in the US. So very quickly we use technology to then say, what does this mean to me? And visually, what would have taken us a week, we can now sort of get down to half a day in getting there. So the question is, if you don't do these things and you still do the traditional way, somebody's going to come faster, better, and spending their time storytelling it to the client better, communicating to the client better, and that's how we see it, even though we don't know the details of it, identify the workflow. There are tons of material saying there are these things, and we don't adopt AI for AI's sake and say we're doing AI. There's a very robust measure that I've asked my team. One is, this is one objective, value creation to clients is the one thing we want to see. We test what's out there, and if it doesn't meet the goal, we chuck it. We're not going to adopt it if it's not addressing our problems, but we will if it does. And then the teams will need to then show how it has helped them. I don't think it's about them convincing me, it's about them convincing themselves it's when it's going to work.
Very interesting, right? So I'm sure you have questions, so don't forget later. So beyond internal processes, there are many industries choosing to adopt AI for customer solutions instead. This makes me think of a story I heard recently from Mark. So he had problems with Microsoft OneDrive, so he decided to contact the support team. And then representative said, okay, I'll get back to you in a day. And then he didn't want to wait, right? So he used Bing Chat, typed the question in, and then got the answer right away. So despite selling AI as a service, even companies like Microsoft have not yet fully integrated AI into their own business processes. So My question for Sir Gary, this brings us there. How do you feel about incorporating AI into your customer solutions? Is it as important as adopting it internally?
All right. Well, I think incorporating AI into customer solutions is akin to discovering a hidden treasure trove of opportunities, right? It's like having a high-tech sidekick who not only understands customer needs, but also speaks the language of customer engagement and cost reduction, right? In my previous company, they have already launched in the market a survey-less market research tool, especially for advertising copy testing. Um, Imagine the positive impact of running copy testing within 1 to 2 hours versus the usual 2 weeks on both the level of satisfaction of customers and employees, as well as the huge cost reduction in running those projects. And this is made possible by applying large language models to Kantar's huge global database of copy testing data, right? And also, just recently, I read a McKinsey article that featured an Asian bank with regard to how they applied AI to their customer service system. So this bank faced increasing customer complaints, very slow resolution times, rising cost to serve, and a very low take-up of their self-service channels. So what this bank did was they reimagined the whole customer engagement cycle. They revamped the existing channels, and then they supported the channels with AI-powered decision-making, including speech and sentiment analytics, to automate intent recognition and issue resolution. So this transformation enabled the bank to triple the use of their self-service channels, around 40 to 50% reduction in service interactions, and more than 20% reduction in the cost to serve. And of course, a huge improvement in the level of satisfaction of their customers and employees. And then a third example, there's also this local company called Kinetics. And full disclosure, I'm a senior affiliate advisor of this company. They are a business systems company, and they have started to help their clients get close to having a single or unified view of their customers, which means that irrespective of the number of multiple channels that a customer uses to reach out to them for a certain issue, be it email, Facebook Messenger, X, Instagram, or phone, or whatever else, the customer personnel, the service personnel, or the chatbot immediately has access to the whole history of the issue. And then it's then supported and empowered by AI-enabled issue resolution. So I'm just saying that these success stories really underscore the huge potential of AI in revolutionizing customer solutions. Now, on the
Adoption internally.
the second question about whether we go first in applying AI to customer solutions before internal adoption or vice versa, I think it's an intriguing chicken and egg dilemma because, for example, going for customer solutions first will have the potential of increasing customer engagement, leading very likely to revenue growth and a lot of financial improvement, right? However, it is also likely that it will demand specialized skills and expertise, which may not be readily available, right? And also that there could be privacy issues that could arise if the AI tool is not meticulously designed and applied. Now, on the other hand, if internal adoption goes first, we can imagine that it can lead to efficiency gains, cost savings, employee satisfaction, reducing employee burnout, right? Which may eventually lead to better commercial offers or better customer service. However, technical challenges or maybe resistance to change can hinder progress, delaying now the benefits to customers and potentially making the investment difficult to justify. So I'm just saying that the bottom line is the optimal sequence now it's really dependent on the strategic priorities of the company and perhaps as well as technological maturity. So
I must agree. That makes sense. So for our next part, implementing AI into our workflows also means that we need the right mindset, as we mentioned, and behaviors in order to optimize its effectiveness. Take ChatGPT, for instance. While each of us has our unique way of using the tool, a standardized approach across the organization is crucial. This ensures that all employees utilize it effectively to enhance the company's output. 44% of CEOs recognize the need for enhanced skills in navigating an AI-driven business environment. This shift extends beyond technology, requiring a holistic transformation of the entire business. Wouldn't it be interesting to know who should lead this change within the organization? The person or team leading the change needs to be more than familiar with the tools that are being introduced. Luis, for you, do you consider yourself to be an AI expert? And who do you believe? I know, it's who do you believe should oversee such changes within the company?
All right, so AI expertise. I was lucky enough to work with one of the Turing Award winners, Joshua Benjo, who was, you could say, one of the top 5 thinkers of the world in AI. And he would admit himself that he does not have a clue of what AI should become. So when it comes to AI experts, I can tell you that it takes 6 months for them to be outdated. I've been studying for the last 10 years, and I still need to study every Friday to make sure that I don't become obsolete within 2 years. So in my view, it's not the proficiency on what the technology is that gives you transformation. What gives you transformation, and sorry for the innovative groups in the room, I believe innovation doesn't come from playing with Legos and having a good time. Innovation, real valuable one, comes from pain. If you have a rear naked choke in and you need to get out of that, and there's no choice but to get out of it, you'll innovate. So I would say that you pick the top 3 most painful things in your organization, the must fixes, and start there. Because if you fix those, your board will love you. There'll be funding for other things. And it may be hard, but there'll be a belief that if you can help fix the important, then you can expand to everybody else. And in that case, it needs to be the business leading it. Because it's the business knows how those pains affect us and what could we be doing to change those pains. into a strength. The other thing I would suggest is, because there's more data, there's more evidence. And what creates as a consequence is you become closer to your customers and to your suppliers. They stop becoming external and they start becoming more and more your partners. So innovating with customers is actually a good idea. Telling your customers, we're trying to improve this. We don't know yet how, but we want your feedback. And especially the Gen Setters love that because they always make TikTok better, Facebook better. So might as well make my local supplier of a part or my power company in this case better. Same with your suppliers. So I think let the business drive it. Believe it or not, your customer is a great forcing function for your transformation because companies disagree all the time, but they all get behind the customer. So if there's one thing we all agree, they'll follow that. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you. You don't want to admit you're an AI expert. But within the room?
That's a rhetorical question.
Yeah. All right. So to continue. So we must also get rid of the reliant attitude when it comes to AI adoption. We have become accustomed to relying on the West to lead the way on innovations. But this is no longer the case with the speed of how AI is developing, as rightly so Luis had mentioned. We need to set our own standards and keep up with the pace. So for our next question, what's the best way for us in Asia to begin planning for AI adoption within our respective countries? Anyone may share their views on this one.
I'll jump in here. I think that the problems we face West, East, North, and South look very different. And I think going back to Luis and Gary, I think it's about trying to understand where is our biggest pain in the business and where should we focus on trying to find a different solution around that. Is the sort of thinking behind then why do we want to do it? And I think as a business, as we're moving more and more in the consulting world, I think it's provocation or risk of a business that then propels it even more. So in our last Strategic Insight series, I had the privilege of speaking alongside Deloitte. So it was a great insight of what he saw and all that. And then after the session, I was like, hey, so how's your consulting fees going? Are you seeing like a dip? Should we be concerned? Like, do you think like we really need to adopt it because at some point, right? Like what humans used to do, we're not doing it anymore. And the client's like, should I be paying you the same amount for doing the same? And this is his answer. He's like, not yet, because customers are still not used to the idea of paying fees to a bot. But very soon, and when we say very soon, he says in the next 2 to 3 years, if you don't reinvent yourself, yes, fees are going to be recalibrated because they realize that they can get to the sources of information already. And that's a risk point. It's 2 to 3 years is not very far. You plan the year and it's over, where Christmas is around the corner. So I think those are the things that we now need to look ahead and then respond to now before it reaches our shores.
To the comment of Western technology coming here, them Westerners. Technology, in this case, AI, adapts to us. So now I'm going to give you a concrete example. We're building an autonomous vehicle algorithm, okay? So we're trying to navigate streets. Now, the first algorithm was developed in Arizona. In that context, you see a pothole. What do you do in Arizona when there's a pothole? You move away or you stop. Now take that pothole and put it in Manila. What do? You accelerate. Because you're trying to jump the pothole because you can move out because there's traffic, and you can't stop because someone's going to crash onto you. The context of a pothole in Mumbai and Manila is very different from the context of a pothole in Canada or the US. Sorry, Singapore, but you don't understand potholes like we do.
It's non-existent in
that
Singapore.
sense, adaptation is the key. Whatever we developed in Canada would be useless. And I tell you, I'm mission driven. If what we developed in Canada worked across the world in power, I wouldn't be here. I would be comfortably in Vancouver, making money that way. What I learned is that it has to work where it needed the most. And hence, I'm here. Because Philippines has a collection of the right problems of the entire world that uses coal. And it's easier to change Filipinos than to change Indians, Indonesians, or Chinese. And we can do it in English. And you guys are expert improvisers as well. Japanese have a heart attack when they see how you run your power plants. So that creativity needs to be harnessed. And that ability to adapt, which to be fair, I don't know many cultures that adapt as well as Filipinos do. You get invaded a couple times, you learn how to adapt. So in that sense, that's how we actually become good at AI. It's unprecedented. It's going to adapt to us. Might as well learn how to adapt it. And remember the pothole. Whatever the Americans developed, it's not going to work here. It's going to be developed there because it's developed with their data, with their context.
I don't know if I'm going to be happy or sad with that answer. Okay. So thank you. Thank you, Luis. Very insightful. I like the pothole thing. So next, it is important to note that with the introduction of new technology, the way we work will drastically shift to soon. Hybrid work, hybrid work, so common, right? The word. Now, this time, it's a mix of teams made up of both humans and artificial intelligence. This means that there will be a huge gap between AI-dependent employees and those without, thus creating completely new status quos for the workplace. So for Narita, we would like to hear your insights for our next question. Will we need to redesign the workplace to fit AI?
I wish it was a straightforward question and we'll be growing like through the roof. I think that workplaces in the past were designed for a very different purpose. It was designed for people to go there, have a terminal in front of you, punch your thing, and do your thing, and at a certain time to a certain time, and you kind of go. And I think the idea of collaboration had already started way before the pandemic. But I think what has made that now questionable even more is post-pandemic, this whole idea of hybrid work. It sounds great, but it's really hard to make happen. The idea that people can do things all the time, get more rest, not travel 5 hours back and forth here in Manila, it needs a certain culture of developing people that understand why we come to work and why do we come together face to face and what do we need to do when we come together face to face. And you would think that everybody should know, but actually everybody doesn't know. And you actually need people to kind of bring the organization together to kind of break it down to understand if that's your goal, then how do we come together in a meaningful way to connect, to collaborate, and what are the workplace environments that then supports it? It's a really interesting example that I found it really perplexing how different the workplace will now be. So have you all heard about this term, the hot desk? It's like the bad word. It's like if you're the salesperson, you get the hot desk because you're supposed to be out there in the field. But the salespeople are supposed to be bringing in business. And so we worked on this cybersecurity company. We designed the front of house and it was just like amazing for clients, for partners and this and that. And obviously the salespeople were given the hot desk. And guess who came to work the most? The salespeople. And this was not even planned. It wasn't even designed to support salespeople. the office space. They brought partners back into the space. They could spend more money on the buffet or bring their client in and say, come and see my amazing office. You got to be here. And the client just wanted to keep coming. And just by that notion, it's overbooked all the time. Now there's not enough space because the customers have proliferated their office space. Isn't that a great problem to have? When your customers want to come, the employees will then show up. So I thought this was a very different sort of dichotomy in looking at what the future holds for us when there's clear purpose and maybe coincidental opportunities that come out from places like that. But the reason why they did it is because they asked themselves as an organization, we need to change, we need to do something. So try something small, and what could success look like?
Thank you. No, it's not an easy answer. Right? It's not an easy answer.
Karen, I just would like to say that the Kantar office is an example of an office that clients love to visit. So thank you, Paperspace.
Thank you. We just have recently proven that it was future-proof because right now their office is super full, and that is with hybrid, function, right, already. So thank you, Sir Gary. You're part of that planning. So continue. Even if AI is perfectly implemented, we still need to address the concern of whether the tools are being used creatively. What does being creative mean in this case? It refers to the way we think, like solving problems in unique ways with the help of AI. AI's purpose extends beyond handling mundane tasks. It should be leveraged to empower employees, unlocking their creativity, and transforming the way we work. Making efficient use of AI means being proficient at prompting, which requires another specific set of skills and thought process to use effectively. It is almost like a new language that we need to learn. So if we are inherently not creative, will AI be able to make us think more creatively? Luis, what do you think?
So it's a little early to answer all those questions, to be very frank. One of the design failures we've made in the algorithmic world is that we're so fascinated by the algorithm that completely forgot about the human. Because in the past, humans adapted to technology. We've recently discovered the fact that, wait a sec, we could actually design this around human cognition and obtain more value out of it. This is called Symbiotic AI. And if you were to Google it, you won't find much around. We just started talking about this maybe a year ago. I like to see AI as a relationship with someone's really good at the quantifiable aspects of things in the trillions of transactions, and someone's really good at the qualitative side of things, where someone brings computing power and processing, and the other one brings intuition. So the role of the human has to be that generalization aspect, the ability to understand the world context, the ability to build hypotheses. But the AI needs to bring data, needs to bring actual quantifiable terms for decision making. However, the decision still needs to be the humans, because they're the ones that live in this world. They're just a cognitive tool. I tell my students that in 10 years from now, there will be no excuse for being stupid. If you can't do math, there'll be an AI for that. The only excuse you would have is for not being creative on how to use this. So with every relationship, you need to develop the parameters of making it a functional relationship. And there's an example of a website called Omegle, which is a great example of a dysfunctional relationship, and it got shut down because of how it was designed. So what I like is that the era of the designer has begun. And I need to shift my mindset from a researcher, an academic that became an engineer, that now I need to learn how to become a designer of these solutions. So reason why, when you tell your teams about AI, Don't think about the end state of where they need to get to, because you won't know what it is. No one knows. They're going to Mars. They've never gone there before. So instead of telling them how to get there, give them the right controls so that they always get somewhere in their exploration that's valuable. Don't get rid of the sandbox, manage the sandbox. But empower them to continue in that journey. And that is what the relationship, the functional relationship with the technology, how it will become. And I can tell you that what works for one organization won't work for the other organization, because it adapts to us. The pothole example. Even between similar contexts of potholes in Manila and Mumbai, the function of pothole plus cow is very different in both. You can run over a cow here, you cannot run over a cow in India. So in that sense, the hyper-personalization of our solutions means that every single one of us is going to have to develop a relationship with the technology and what it can do for us.
So I wanted to chime in on creativity. It's very close to my heart, but two words come to mind, which is precedence. I feel is a killer of ideation sometimes. And in most organizations, we haven't done it before, so we will not do it. I think precedence, I feel, becomes less of a sticky point now for us, because now people are saying, well, why are we following what used to be done? Because look at the plethora of possibilities. So that was, that's, I feel like has unleashed that ability to be creative. And I think the other one that, again, is really key for us, is now kind of context. I think the days of, as they say, killing it slowly by PowerPoint is over, and I really wish it was, but it still happens, is context. When we go into problems right now, I start to see how tunnel vision people come in and expect to be right. But it's not the culture of coming in and knowing everything. It's coming in and how do we build a people that says, I know this, you know that, it could be this, it could be that. How are we going to teach people with all the knowledge in the world right now to solve that one problem? And I think that's the power of the human need now, is to take the data, come together, agree to disagree and all that, and still aim for the North Star. I think we have a lot to learn there still.
Thank you. So creating an environment conducive to creativity is crucial. Some excel in collaborative workplaces, while others find inspiration in the solitude of their own homes. There has been an increase of companies asking their employees to return to the office. Hint. Tesla, we're so far from US. Okay. There is, since because of this, right, Sir Gary or Narita, how do you think this will affect employee output? So, like, the companies actually requires the employees to come back.
Well, this now age-old debate of of office versus home productivity, I think it's like choosing between watching a movie at the cinema or streaming it at home, right? Some people thrive in the communal experience of a theater, but some people really prefer the comfort and convenience of their couch, right? And I think we have all heard about tons of studies that say the remote worker can be more productive given several reasons. One, there's no need to commute, right? So a lot of time is saved. Then there are reduced distractions. Well, of course, it's on a case-to-case basis, I know. More flexible schedules, right? Well, of course, I just thought about it. The ability to work in your pajamas, right? Because let's be honest, that can be a major productivity boost, right? However, however, isolation, work from home burnout, it's really difficult to unplug when you're at home. So these are real concerns, right? And some people just simply crave human interactions, which the office environment can give, right? So in my previous company, we fully embraced uh, the hybrid work arrangement, right? And so what we did was to require every individual to be at the office only at least twice a week, right? But at the same time, we also encouraged everyone to be there more often or even always by providing ample space for collaborative brainstorming as well as for quiet contemplation. So it's like having dedicated rooms for videoke and other rooms for learning Shakespeare maybe. So it's a good mix of lively discussions and focused work because we all know that productivity is not just about working harder, right? We know that by working smarter, people can be very productive. And another thing, it's also about finding an environment where we can work like we are a superhero, right? Rather than being like a hamster on a wheel.
So I'll give you maybe some practical applications from the study of behavioral science and neuroscience. Um, it is proven in sociology that humans work and are more productive in a network. In fact, if you are connected to people that overeat, your probability of getting diabetes is way bigger just because of the social aspect of your interaction. Similarly, learnings happen in an environment like that. So if you were to be data driven rather than just experience driven, we always done it that way and it worked. Understanding why it works is important. So looking at your team as a brain, as a collective intelligence is really important, which also means there's a piece of research that you can look into yourself called emergenetics out of University of Stanford, which people have preferences on the way they learn and apply their skills. Some of them are structural. They love spreadsheets. Some of them are analytical. They love to look at problems. Some of them are creative. They love to create solutions. And some of them are social. They love to talk about it. But if you need to create a spreadsheet and the analytical people dominate the meeting, you're not getting the work done. So in that sense, you need to create a space that purposely says to the employee, for this type of work, you have to meet with these people. But for this type of work, if you're doing structural work, if you're doing spreadsheets or coding, be at home. You don't need interruptions. But if you're trying to problem solve creatively, you have to meet people because the interaction is what drives the creativity. So if you become more data-driven, then you can actually start putting these policies based on evidence and research, not based on experiential or tacit knowledge from what we used to do 20 years ago. And that's what we're doing at Boitis Data Innovations is we have a behavioral science team, and we say to people, when you have to do a meeting along the lines of go-to-market creativity, right? Meet at the office. But when you have to do code, stay at home. And there you empower the employees to say, you have to choose when to come, but you got to make sure that you have the right environment for the right task that you're doing. So making them more aware. And I think this actually works because people are really all trying to do a better job. They will also see their limitations. Like I have a preferential for the analytical, but I hate human interaction. Doesn't look like it, but I really don't like too much talking to many people. I've learned to do that because it's a part of being able to analyze and arrive at a solution. So they'll develop skills that they are not aware they had if they have more data about how they prefer to work.
Thank you. Um, so thank you to all of our speakers today for your insightful answers. I hope that we all learned something valuable during our time here. Certainly I have, as usual. But before we go, I don't know if we have enough time for a lot of questions, but let's summarize some of the conversation points earlier in detail. The next steps of what you can take as an organization when it comes to AI. So first, you need a team that can impart knowledge. If you want consistency in execution throughout the organization, you will need to appoint a team or committee to facilitate AI knowledge sharing. It can be effective because one, it is employee led, so it keeps everyone engaged. Two, it can cultivate a culture of learning and curiosity amongst your employees. Second, find specific problems to address and solve. If we are fighting fires every day, it might be difficult to find time to discover and implement AI processes. We need to strategize the best way to determine our pain points and develop proper solutions. It might be necessary to bring in external help, if needed, to audit the areas that need AI assistance. And third, employing workplace strategy. Embracing AI requires organizations to adopt a human centered approach. Understanding the work patterns and preferences of your workforce is essential before implementing any changes to their daily routines. So that wraps up our third strategic insight series. And before we go back to networking, let us have a quick Q&A. So again, we have the QR code over here. Please feel free to ask so that, and put your name, where you're from, so that we can give you a shout out. And then let's see the questions that we have. Thank you. Okay, so we have a few questions like, when is the next event? Okay, so any other questions? Because we do have some more information that's really, really interesting coming from Luis. So we're quite excited to share that as well. You know, like and this one is like us asking Luis, right?
Yeah, so as part of the previous research company I was in, we did a foresight exercise for LG in Korea, and we created the future of the home for the next 40 years, what homes in the future will look like. But as part of that, there was some 4 use cases. We created about 550 use cases, but there was a few use cases that really define how we are going to work and learn. And I took excerpts from that foresight. It's pre-domain. We presented at CES before. And I was going to show you some of the things that are likely going to happen to your home and workspace. And in fact, there's coming up a hybridization where the home becomes more productive and the workspace becomes more homey. So to trickle your ideas and if you're what this is going to happen. So and we did it with it's all really based on very sound research, not just Canadians coming up with something fun to do on a Sunday. So hopefully you'll get your creative juices going with those use cases.
So okay, so it has come in. So first, I'll ask the question first. So later, like I told you, we have practical use cases from Luis. But now for the questions. So how will I include AI in my business if people do not wish to do so?
Fire them.
Ouch! Okay,
Look,
so
look,
easy.
Look,
So
I know it
easy
sounds
answer.
crude, and I don't run your business, but let me give you a story of my situation. So I've been in power since 1998, and I arrived at becoming a vice president in GE. I was running Power Digital in Asia. I thought that was going to be the last job I was going to have. I'm in power. I have systems. They're trying to build this world of technology plus industrial. And GE invented the industry I was in. That was my last job. The problem after the third year there was I was learning nothing. And I was learning nothing because the people that were above me were too arrogant to realize that the world had changed. The very people that changed the world didn't want to do it again. And when I did my exit interview, I went back to school, which is not a common thing when you're 40, and to a startup, which I absolutely hated it. Because I used to work for Accenture, SAP, GE, and then I go to a startup of annoying sandal-wearing Canadians. I wanted to smack every single one of those kids. But the reason I did that is that was what's required for me not to be obsolete. You know how many of my co-peers, senior vice presidents of GE, still work in GE? None of them. If you don't know how to unlearn things, you will never lead through change. And if you're not humble enough to learn new things, you will become obsolete. The future of organizations is more talent density and less hierarchy. And talent density means I don't care how long you've been here. I care what you can provide, what you can do. And if you're not willing to learn, then you won't do nothing. In a world where things are new, you will not be productive. So, sorry, this sounds all very nice, but the reality of innovation is you're going to break some things, and you're likely going to have to break some of your organizations. That means talent density means collapsing, firing 25% of them, and hiring people that are willing to learn the new way because they didn't know any better before. Sorry.
Inspired? Everyone? Anyone firing?
Or afraid?
Soon? After coming back from this event, it's our fault.
And if I hadn't done that, because I was hoping just to retire from GE, right? The stock price when I joined GE was $38 a share. By the time I left, it was $6 a share. My entire retirement was gone. And if I hadn't done that, I would be a very obsolete, overpaid, or retired executive.
Agree. Thank you. So another question, which I think that's the only one we have left, right? But is there a good place for organizations to figure out what the best tools to use are? Is there a good place for organizations to figure out what the best tools to use are? Simply Googling seems like it is a lost cause.
I talked about a sandbox. You need to create a hypothetical sandbox or a representative sandbox in each of your organizations. We live in a world now where we're attention poor, information rich. For those of us that studied in the 80s or 90s, it was the other way around. We were attention rich, but information poor. Okay. Just because you can find information doesn't mean that the 15 or 18-year-olds in the world cannot. So give them a safe space for them to sandbox in. And then give them the ability to figure it out. Give them training to help them to figure it out, to become good at the knowledge as a process, I would say. I learned so much just from other people's GitHubs. I love the fact that in AI, it's open source. And there's smarter, more talented 20-year-olds in the world that are publishing everything they do without understanding really the value that it has. So that's how I learn. And in my pajamas on a Friday in Singapore, going through people's GitHubs. Yeah. I think if you in your organizations think of a daycare, right, in your organization. Here's some chocolate, here's some nice colors, comfy couches. Go and spend 3 hours a week there coming up with new ideas. Free pizza. Read a little bit about how Google does their workspaces, because Google creates a workspace so nice that people sometimes don't leave for days. They eat, leave, sleep, workout, shower, everything at Google, right? If you learn a little bit about that, I think that would be the right place for me, and then just a really fast connection of internet and some data sets, and they'll figure it out.
Thanks so much. I'm really sorry, as you can see, we have questions still coming in, but that's the time that we have for today. So again, thanks so much for joining us tonight. And I know we have prompted more questions, rather, and that only means that we've done our job. And before we conclude, I would like to thank our very hardworking team. Thanks so much, Anson, all the way from Singapore. Angel over here, who have worked so hard. Gian, Mark, thanks so much. Of all of our Paperspace Asia teams in the region. So what's next for Paperspace Asia? Well, we are going to be running a lot more events in the future, so please keep a lookout. Also, follow us on social media at Paperspace Asia on all platforms. And finally, if you wish to accelerate your business performance through workplace strategy and design, feel free to book a meeting with us. Thanks so much.